that, not need them one. Run.
521.
Starting a card for a parking problem.
And 423.
Yes, that's more of a 28 from one truck when you're ready.
Go ahead.
One truck, white Lincoln X-ray 985, should come back up next.
Toyota 2000. Patrick Spalding.
10-4. If you can put them a little lower than something like that, I'm going to be leaving a note. My vehicle is not even to remove it.
Fuck. Fuck. Rockingham 505 entered a vandalism case for Athens, complainant, soon to be ex, slashed her tires and has made threatening comments to her. She's concerned he might return.
Yeah, forgive this at 32.
10-4. You're assigned to a vandalism case in Athens. Did you copy the 505?
10-4. Look at that.
21.
No, 3 and Depot Street. Truck's away at 35.
7435. 10-4.
Here comes 643 again.
143.
You go with that 43 you had. I didn't hear any, but I had just looked like we did.
10-4. I just wanted to know if you should be put back 76 to Cabana Circle or to the subject's address.
Yeah, I'll be 23 back on that found property case, and I'll be 76 to the Williams Road address to see if I can find the emergency.
10-4. 449-1120.
Now 449-1121, thank you.
Code 4. 4.
Right, we have 535.
Yeah, that's a great college.
535.
Should be. You guys know if our woman I'm talking about. I'll flight up that way.
Caller is now been able to close the front door. He is now pounding on the door, trying to get in. About 5 foot, long dark hair, got tie-dye shirt on, and number 21 is on.
Switch is on, here comes the throttle. Chevy breakers in. We have separation. Inboard and outboard, they're on. Coming forward with the side stick. I've got a blowout. Neighbor 3. Introduce to 0. Pitches out. Can't hold altitude. Correction. Alpha 1 is off. Track collector emergency. Flight call. I can't hold it. She's breaking up. She's breaking.
Thank God Kate is here with me today because I am struggling to wake up. Bruins killed me last night. Hi, Kate. How you doing? Oh, Kate's mic's off. Hold on a second. All right. No, it's still off.
No, it's me, not you.
Okay. All right. It's you. It's
I'm
not
good.
me.
How are you? Yeah.
Very good. So today they're going 9 o'clock. They'll finish the cross-exam, or they'll do the cross-examination of Katie McLaughlin, right?
Right.
And then take the jury out to the scene.
Yeah, I believe that's the plan.
So court will probably break till like 1 o'clock at that point, you think, for probably a few hours?
Yeah, is it a half day today again?
I thought today was a full day, so I think
Okay.
they might. I mean, well, usually it's Tuesday and Thursdays are the half days.
Okay, all right.
I don't know. I never know for sure what's going on, but I think that's the way it'll go. So we'll probably just have to go. I'm not going to stay on the air for 3 hours talking unless you want to.
We'll see.
So-
We'll see where the day takes us. Although I
Okay.
do probably have other stuff to do today.
All
I
right,
have to
that's a good
work.
plan. If they're going to go off for a while, we'll just start another show when they come on this afternoon. We'll
Yeah,
just
sounds
do it
good.
that way. So what'd you think about yesterday?
Alan Jackson is good on cross. I'm just going to say that. He really is. He's very good at confusing and frustrating the witnesses. I am wondering how the jury is taking that too. I'm curious to see what the hospital staff have to say, because if you recall, pre-trial, there was that motion to admit her statements to the hospital staff, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I believe it was Yannetti who had said something to the effect of, well, those admissions are absolutely admissible. We don't have, grounds to object to that. So it sounds like she didn't just make some admissions at the scene, but she also did it at the hospital as well. I'm just curious to see what that looks like when we get there. But right now, they're just setting the scene, right?
Yeah, that's the key point right there, though, as to how yesterday went. Because so when I talked a lot about this with Kevin J. Mahoney yesterday privately, and he thinks that it was a really bad day for Alan Jackson, and he's because he's a trial lawyer, and he said he could see it on Alan Jackson's face that Jackson made a mistake, or that Flamati gave him an answer that he didn't expect. So when Flamati said that he told the ER staff that Karen had said John had been hit by a vehicle, but you're right, that staff has to testify. If the hospital staff backs that up, then that's huge. That's a huge mistake for the defense, because now you're getting yet more information, not only saying Karen's saying I hit him, but that he told this as just ordinary information to the ER staff. But if they don't back that up, then yeah, it looks like maybe Flamati was fudging the truth, right? So
I don't see the motivation for especially these firefighters to lie. And they're not, right? If somebody heard her say I hit him, they say that. If they didn't, they say that as well. I don't really see that as, I definitely know that some of them were getting frustrated yesterday. Yeah, whatever, sure. If you say it, then it must be true, right? But I don't know how it's going to play for the jury. I think Katie McLaughlin was very, very credible at the end of the day.
very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is the key thing, is how it plays to the jury. You and I might look at the firefighters and say they seem completely honest and they have no motive, right? But jurors can be suspicious, and that's sometimes a good thing. And they know it's a small town and people talk, and the firefighters and the police talk. So if they're looking at the defense is pointing out that none of this stuff, or a lot of this stuff, doesn't seem to be actually written down in reports on that day. So that could be enough to create a little bit of reasonable doubt there.
I just want to point out to Brown Eye Girls in the chat who's saying there's 2 exes of John's, one on Karen's side and the other on the family side. There's actually several exes of John's on the family side, just so we're clear. Maybe not sitting there right now because of the restriction in who can get into the courtroom, but there are several. Just for some context, while he was still living, John did not necessarily consider Lindsay Higgins to be an ex. It was a fling. It was not. I believe that I know because I've been told numerous times that it was a brief sexual fling. So I'm not surprised that she's supporting Karen, but she wasn't a very important person in John's life while he was alive. Yes, side piece, pretty much. I wouldn't even say side piece because that implies some sort of infidelity in a relationship, which I have absolutely no reason to believe that ever happened. But, just a fling, a random sexual encounter that ruined his sheets with spray tan.
I thought it was interesting too yesterday. To me, what made Katie McLaughlin's testimony so powerful or compelling, among many things, but the fact that she had such specific memory that included an action. So when she heard Karen say, "I hit him," she said she looked up to a cop and said, "Are you getting this?" And she remembered the cop signaling to Officer Goody, who I guess was probably on command at that point, and said, "Get over here." That was a very detailed, specific memory. That was beyond just saying, "I heard, I hit him." I don't know. When I hear details like that, it makes it more convincing to me.
Right. And I mean, again, like just very credible. That and Nettle I found to be very credible as far as the firefighters go.
Yes, he definitely was. So what do you think is going to happen on Cross today? Are they going to really try to savage McLaughlin?
I would assume so. I would definitely assume so.
It seems like this. I don't know. I can only think of two possible angles you can go to defend against I hit him. One is that these firefighters are lying, right? Which the more they're doing it and the more police that hear it, then it seems crazy. And maybe some medical staff heard her say that too, But the other is that so far it seems like the defense is following the playbook that they gave to Turtle Boy back last April. That it was all, and so part of that was that the idea that Jen McCabe somehow, this evil mastermind, convinced Karen in the car that she did it.
When by all accounts, it wasn't even that wasn't even a presumption for a while. I think it was when John's friends and family see Karen's behavior over the course of the morning is when it starts to dawn on them, oh my God, did she have something to do with this? If anything, what we heard in testimony yesterday, as she is screaming, allegedly, I hit him, either Carrie or Jen tells her to shut up. She's hysterical. That's not someone who wants you to incriminate yourself. That's someone who's saying,
I thought that too.
Enough, right?
Yeah, I thought that exact same thing. It was really interesting. Yeah, those little details like that are really what make it a testimony feel fleshed out, and the fact that everybody's story is slightly different makes it feel more real too, instead of more practiced, or even the fact that somebody changes their testimony just a little bit is actually a good thing. It makes it seem more real,
Well, I mean, this is 2 years ago. I mean, they're really, I think that, one thing with cross-examination that I'm seeing Jackson and Yannetti to a certain extent do a lot is really try to hammer minute details to trip you up, right? And it's been 2 years, so people's memory fades, as well as they are asking questions that require the first responders to draw an inference as to what Karen was thinking or feeling at the time. Right? Was she distraught? Was she upset? I mean, she was hysterical, but I don't know if that is that distraught. Is that a guilty conscience? I can say that if I hit somebody with my car and realized they were dead the next morning, I would probably be freaking out like that too. Cause it's a lot. Not only have you realized that you've just taken a human life, right? That is somebody that it was your boyfriend close to, and also, oh my God, I'm going to jail. So I think that the fact that they keep hammering away at Karen was really distraught. You could read that two ways.
It's so hard to know because even I had long thought, and I don't know what I think because it's so hard to interpret people's reactions in those moments because it's such a unique situation. But I had always wondered if Karen knew that she hit him early on, and her goal would not have been to somehow create a conspiracy theory. She would think that's crazy. Your taillight is busted, there's damage to your car, so they're going to link it to you. So your only goal was to make it seem like you didn't leave the scene of the accident knowing you're hitting someone. So to me, I would go into that pretending to be shocked. Oh my God, I did this. I can't believe it. To me, that's a way of selling the idea that you didn't do it on purpose.
Right.
But who knows, I'm just going to break away a second to make sure it's not coming on. Yeah, it is. All right. I get enough where I can link to the famous ceiling fan. But that's good because people see that and they know we're here. All right. Here is the famous hypnotic seal. That fan puts me to sleep.
I can't wait till they get to the forensics in this case too, because witness testimony is one thing, but once we get into the forensic evidence, I think the problem with these trials as people follow them so closely is that you kind of view every day in a vacuum, right? So like the first day of trial, free Karen Reed people are like, this is great. This is great for Karen, innocent. Look, they're all confused about their story. It's like that is one very small piece of what are they projecting, like 5-week presentation?
Yeah, and it feels like it's going to go longer, but
yeah.
So was there something in Liley's statement about Karen also driving over John? What's the latest on what we know?
It seems to be what they're saying. I mean, we'll see when we see the report, really, but it seems to sound like she hit him and then ran over him. I kind of would assume that what they're talking about is like there's an impact and then the body's kind of dragged as she goes into reverse a little bit more, and then she, puts it into drive and drives away.
So I don't, why are there tire marks on the grass? Are there tire marks on his clothing? Are there injuries?
I don't know. I mean, there were tire tracks in the road and the grass, right? Because at one point with the snow, because Matt McCabe and Jen McCabe state that they saw them
on the street, though, right? So
I think it was going up into the like.
Are you reading that? Is that what?
Yeah, I was reading Beacom. Sorry. Yeah, that's another problem too. Is like they're really. Thank you, because I was going to say that too. They're hammering. Nobody ever saw her say this, but she went on national TV and said, "Well, yeah, I did. I said it, not exactly like that. I said, did I hit him? But now they're trying,
right. That's what I was trying to get at. Like, they're going with a double strategy. They're trying on the one hand say she didn't say it, and on the other hand saying she said it because Jen McCabe convinced her to say it. Which is it?
Right.
It's really strange. Well, Jen McCabe is the key testimony here. If Jen McCabe just gets up there and comes across as a regular person and not Lex Luthor, I don't see how this works out. This strategy, it doesn't make sense to me. The defense strategy, but. Kevin, but Kevin Mahoney had told me, and he said on the show, that some lawyer connected to this case, obviously not David Yannetti, had some knowledge that there's a defense bombshell that only the defense knows about that will come out during the trial. And he tried to get the guy to tell him, but he wouldn't. So I don't know he doesn't know what it could be.
A defense bombshell.
Well, so he explained that the strategy that they would use is that you have a private investigator that finds something out, but don't create a report. They just tell them orally, and then it comes out on the stand. That's the strategy that defense teams use. So if there's a bombshell, it'll come from that private investigator that Yannetti employed.
Okay, so they're crowing about how Vince didn't make it into many police reports, right? But that's I don't know.
It would have been presumably something that the private investigator found in somebody's background or whatever. I don't know. I don't want to obviously get speculative because I don't know what it is, but I'm just talking generally. What would a private investigator find?
What will be admissible too? Because I think they're already kind of skirting the line with the third party.
Yeah.
And you can tell that the judge is getting irritated.
That's a huge factor here. I think like the judge definitely. She started court yesterday, basically, with new instructions to the jury, which are clearly targeting the defense with their leading kind of questions and stuff they're putting in there that have nothing to do with the answer. And then the defense went on just doing the same thing yesterday. So I think when the jury knows the judge is really, really upset with one side's lawyers, that really affects how they think.
Sure.
So what time do you think they'll start today? They usually start around 9:10, I think, right? 9:10. And Jen will be on at some point today. She had some good analysis yesterday.
I know she's live on her channel right now, and she's asked me to moderate for 15 minutes. So if I'm looking down, that's why. Because I'm just making sure that I'm moderating her channel at the same time.
Okay.
Multitasking.
All right. Well, if she'd invited me, I would have let her do it, and then I would have just taken the morning off because I am tired.
No, she's not streaming the trial.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. So, does she have a lot of people on?
Not right now. It's early in the morning.
It's so
Sure, I
tough
don't
in the
either.
morning. Yeah.
No.
So, you know, the last couple of days spent a lot of time with the pink shirts, the pink army.
How was that?
They were all nice.
Okay.
And honestly, they were nice to me, and they just kind of like a lot of people just want to tell their story, you know. So obviously I'm sure they target me a lot offline, but in person they were all nice to me and we were nice to each other, and so it was not a problem talking to them at all. And I think some of the more extreme ones like Steve have been eliminated. So, you know, fortunately. So over time they're people that just have strong feelings about the case, and I think a lot of it has to do with, especially if they're local, mistrust of the police.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't hard to get them to kind of believe in this conspiracy theory because of the police. I really think.
Right. Now I understand the bias that's behind it. I suppose if it was just the police and prosecutors that this conspiracy was targeting, I mean, not that I would not consider it legitimate still, but less objectionable.
Yeah.
What I find objectionable in this is these people have taken their belief in this conspiracy and their inherent biases, and they are, essentially convicting and punishing these random innocent civilians on the street every single day. I mean, it's not justice. And I don't think there's a lot of, I mean, I really did. I saw Attorney Mahoney is his name, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So when he was on court TV and he really made that very strong proclamation about how, the witnesses are being treated, I really appreciated that he said that, especially on national TV. Somebody needed to.
It really, yeah. And the other lawyer that was on the last couple of nights, who had one time had defended Colin, or represented Colin rather, he's very, very articulate and powerful, and stating that same thing. That people have to realize this is not just some sporting event where people have opinions on two different sides. That innocent people that have no evidence against them are being accused of being murderers, and it's a terrible thing to do, and they're being hounded in their lives, and the destruction is unfair. It's un-American.
Yet again, the victim's family gets, because I saw a picture of Jen McCabe's vehicle at the O'Keefe home the other day. Why are these people creeping on the O'Keefe home? Why are you doing this? Why can you not leave the family alone? You see them in court every day, reduced to tears, and still feel comfortable to, essentially stalk them, keep them under surveillance, make horrible accusations. I read somewhere that they were, it was Tom CPU, my favorite guy, had put up a post not even insinuating, straight out saying, well, this is just my theory, but what if the mother and brother paid someone to kill John? Like, that is absurd. That's insane. It's awful. It's evil.
I know. It's evil. And obviously Sean McDonough's been a source of a lot of that crazy stuff too. So I wanted to just, actually, I think Tim has a good question here. Why are a lot of the law tubers covering this case think the Commonwealth is not doing good? And I have heard a lot of national lawyers say that kind of thing. So it's not just total rioters. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Because I think that, Lally is struggling. I do.
No question.
He's struggling, yeah. Oh, here we go.
Welcome to Zoom for Government. Enter your participant ID. Please enter the meeting passcode followed by pound. You have joined the meeting as an attendee and will be muted throughout the meeting. The host, you are unmuted.
This is, if you've never been in court before, this is the moment when they're bringing in the jury. And if you're on a jury, it's a powerful moment. Everybody's standing and watching you come in. And because
all persons have any business before the Honorable Beverly Canoni, Justice of the Norfolk Superior Court in the County of Norfolk. Draw near, give your attendance, you shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This court is now open. You may be seated.
2282CR117, the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed. Can I have counsel identify themselves for the record? Adam Lally for the Commonwealth. Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, Mr. Lally.
Good morning, Your Honor. Laura McLaughlin for the Commonwealth.
Good morning, Ms. McLaughlin.
Good morning, Your Honor. Alan Jackson for Ms. Reed.
Good morning, Mr. Jackson.
Your Honor, Elizabeth Little, also on behalf of Ms. Reed.
Good morning, Ms. Little.
Good morning, Judge David Unetti for Karen Reed.
Good morning, Ms. Giannetti. Good morning, Ms. Reed. Good morning, jurors. I have to ask you those same three questions. Were you able to follow the instructions and refrain from discussing this case with anyone since we left here yesterday? Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Were you also able to follow the instructions and refrain from doing any independent research or investigation into this case?
Yes.
Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Did anyone happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case since we left yesterday? Everyone said no or shook their hands. So while you bring your witness in, Mr. Lally, I'd like to see counsel at Sidebar for a brief minute. But they
It's good to see Mr. O'Keefe back in court. We have to remember these are older people that have been through a lot of tragedy, and this is a very taxing thing to go through. Despite what Sean McDonough cruelly said, he is sitting with the family. And we're in a sidebar. That's obviously Karen's family. These sidebars can be, unfortunately, long. That's the nature of a trial. Kate, sidebars are trials, aren't they? Kate is still muted.
Sorry. I do that all the time. I wonder
I
how
do too.
the jury is looking at Karen's affect through this so far.
And they will study her the whole time. So I'm sure she's been coached, but
She can't control her face. Like she just can't.
yeah. She does have a different expression, a completely different one in the trial that she's been wearing in the hearings recently, where she was looked very overconfident and I think it's intentional that she's looked more appropriately severe, I guess. I don't know what the word would be, but Will Scott thinks she looks nervous.
Should be. Anyone would be. Any sort of trial is nerve-wracking. My God.
Yeah, you're on trial for murder. You would think so, but she's looked so strangely confident in the hearings the last several months that, almost like she's enjoying it. So. Yesterday I took an Uber back from Dedham, and I was on the phone to a couple of people talking about the case. It turned out my Uber driver is a public defendant.
Oh.
From I'm not going to say which town, but a town in the Boston area. He had some very colorful opinions on a lot of things. But he did say he knows Lally, and he knows the judge, Canoni.
Right.
And he said one thing about them is they're incorruptible. He said they're people that would never.
Well, that's the thing too, is like, I really hope that the jury is able to kind of analytically look at the motivations that someone would have to engage in such a cover up, because I don't think they're very compelling.
See, I have never understood the defense or the free Karen Reed people attack on Jan McCabe or Kerry Roberts underreactions in this case. It doesn't
Right.
make sense to me because everybody's different. Karen had a lot more reasons to be hysterical. It was her boyfriend. She was involved in the accident.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody's different too. I'm a calm person in those situations too. I go crazy if I can't find a missing sock. I might start throwing things through a window.
Right.
But in an emergency, I'm calm. And I've had in my job owning a bar, and as a bartender before that, I had to call 911 many times in all kinds of medical situations to fight situations, and I always remain calm, even when I was 21 doing it.
It just breaks my heart to see his family.
Yeah. So do you think maybe? Oh, I'm back. Okay.
Could you raise your right hand one more time? Do you solemnly swear the evidence you give the court and jury in the case down here is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, I have a few more questions for you. So, turn your attention to a period of time you testified about yesterday when you're at, Mr. O'Keefe is in the back of the ambulance. With respect to his clothing, what, if any, observations did you make in regards to that clothing?
He had, in terms of what he was wearing,
First, in terms of what he was wearing.
he was wearing jeans. He had on a dark colored light zip up jacket. And I noticed one sneaker.
Now, with regard to that clothing, what, if any, observations did you make in regard to the condition of that clothing?
It was soaked through.
As far as tears or holes or anything else with regard to that clothing, what, if any, observations did you make of that?
I didn't see any.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have exhibit number 18.
Okay.
Now, first, Firefighter McLaughlin, do you recognize what's up on the screen as exhibit 18?
Do I recognize,
What it is?
what it is?
Yes.
Yes.
And what do you recognize it to be?
The address of the call, 34 Fairview Road.
Now, with respect to this photograph, do you observe within it or where Mr. O'Keefe was on the ground when you first arrived?
From this angle, no, I don't.
And if you could, it was not on the photograph, is it off to the left, the right, or where would it be in relation to this photograph?
To the left, I would say.
And about how far off frame do you believe it was?
I'm not sure. So my view of the call was, my reference point wasn't a house on either side. The patient was off the road. So my view of this call was the patient was on the side of the road. The only thing that I noted was a fire hydrant. So in relation to, I know it was to the left of a house, but I'm not sure exactly how far left it would be from this picture, from this angle.
So your memory is to the left of the house near a fire hydrant, is that correct?
Yes.
Take that down. I have no further questions.
All right, cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. McLaughlin.
Morning.
You responded to the call of an unresponsive male in the snow at 34 Fairview. That was the address you recalled, right?
Correct.
The house you just looked at, that is in fact 34 Fairview, right?
Correct.
As Mr. O'Keefe was being transported by ambulance, you were instructed by firefighter Flamati to get information about the victim from Karen Reed, correct?
He wasn't being transported by the ambulance at that time. He was on the stretcher. And Tony, who was at the head of the stretcher, asked me to get information from Miss Reed about the patient, but he wasn't being transported in the ambulance at that time.
Who's Tony?
Firefighter Flamati.
Got it. When you did, in fact, did you follow those directives?
I did.
When you finally approached Miss Reed in order to get that medical history as best you could, what did the scene look like? Who was with you or around you?
So they started to move the stretcher towards the ambulance. Miss Reed was sort of, I guess I would describe it as moving around the scene. So she was moving, kind of going in circles. So I was really just focused on her, trying to get her to converse with me and get those questions. So that I wasn't really noticing anything else at that point. I was more just trying to contact her, and she was moving around.
What were you wearing at the time?
I had my like winter fire jacket on.
What color is it?
It's yellow and red.
Bright yellow for safety purposes.
Yes.
When you began your actual questioning, once everybody sort of stood still, you began your questioning of Miss Reed. You were standing in one spot. Miss Reed was standing to your right. Is that right?
Well, the questioning started, as I said, she was moving around the scene. So the questioning was ongoing as she was moving around to different locations. I don't know exactly how many of the questions I got out during the time that she was moving around. At one point, we did come to a stop. And at that point, she was to my right.
That's the point I want to focus your attention on, if I could. When you came to a stop, that's the point at which you recall the statement being made that you attribute to my client.
Yes.
Okay. And in that group, who was there? I want to make sure I understand this exactly.
So there was Miss Reed to my right. There was a civilian woman to my left. There was a police officer who was not directly across from me, but I would say maybe diagonal to me, closer to Miss Reed.
Your Honor, I'm holding a photograph. This is shown to the Commonwealth. May I approach?
Yes.
I'll show you, Ms. McLaughlin, a still photograph. I'm going to ask you to take a quick look at that photograph and look up after you've studied it for a second and tell me if you recognize people that are in that photograph.
I recognize people in it.
May I publish, Your Honor?
Yes. Is this an exhibit or are you moving to introduce it?
I'm moving to introduce it. It has not been introduced as yet.
Okay. So go ahead and have the witness adopt it first.
Sure. Do you see the person closest to frame? Closest to the camera?
Yes.
In what appears to be a yellow and red jacket.
Yes.
Who's that?
That would be me.
Who's to your right?
It appears to be Miss Reed,
And to your left?
a civilian woman,
And across, as you said, sort of diagonal, closer to Miss Reed is?
a police officer.
Do you know that officer's name, by the way?
I don't know his name.
Okay. Your Honor, with that, I would ask that this be marked as next in order.
Okay, is there any objection?
No objection.
So we are going to remark these exhibits today because of the problems that I indicated at Sidebar. How do you want to do this, Madam Reporter? I don't know where we start from. Tori, how many are in evidence? Folks, it's my responsibility to make sure the record is intact. And you've heard numbers 1, 3, 309, 247. We need to straighten this out to make sure it's appropriate for you. You know what, Madam Clerk, Madam Court Reporter, just mark it as the next exhibit number, whatever in the hundreds that is, and we'll take care of this today. I don't want to waste your time, folks, while we do this, but it's very important that we do it. All right. All right, so there was any objection to that from the Commonwealth?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. McLaughlin, this is the time or the scene that you told us about when you heard the statement that you've attributed to my client, correct?
Sorry, say that again?
Sure. This is a moment in time, it captures a moment in time when you're standing there. To your right is Karen Reed, which you've described. To your left is a civilian female, which you've described. And across from you is an officer, which you've also described.
Yes.
So this would be the time or close in time to the time that you heard the statement that you attribute to Ms. Reed, correct?
Yes.
The first time you ever made that official report, or an official report to law enforcement regarding that statement was January 30th, 2022, correct?
Well, yes and no. The statement was made in front of the police officer, so that would technically be the first time that statement was made to a police officer in my presence. And then, yes, I testified to it on January 30th, as you said.
You said it on January 30th. You weren't testifying under oath, correct?
Okay. Said it.
Okay.
Yes.
My question was really, and I appreciate you clarifying, my question was really the first time you actually told this statement to any law enforcement officer was on January 30th.
Yes.
Okay, we can take that down. That was when you met with Trooper Michael Crockett, correct?
Yes.
Obviously, that was very close in time to the event. It was the next day. Is that right?
Yes.
The events were close.
The 29th. Yeah. So it would be the next day.
Right. 29th, 30th.
Yeah.
Okay. The events were fresh in your mind at that time.
Yes.
You obviously knew about the importance of that interview. You knew that it dealt with a police officer who had passed.
I knew it was important to talk to the police about what I heard.
And you wanted to be accurate.
Yes.
You wanted to be as detailed as you possibly could.
Yes.
And you understand that memories, obviously, they get a little worse with time, not better with time, right?
Sure.
The closer in time you are to the event, the fresher your memory is going to be about the details of that event. You would agree with that, right?
Sure.
You told Trooper Proctor the day after the event on January 30th that the statement that you attribute to my client was actually made to the female, not to you in response to your questioning. That's what you told Trooper Proctor, correct?
I don't have those notes in front of me, so I don't know that I can tell you that that's correct, but the statement was made in response to my question. However, the Miss Reed was looking at the civilian woman as she said that.
Does it refresh your recollection that
Don't read what you think refreshes a recollection. You can show her, you cannot read it. Yes.
Take a look at the highlighted portion of that report and look up when you're finished.
Okay,
May I?
sure.
Your Honor, may I
Yes.
approach? Does that refresh your recollection about what you told Trooper Proctor on January 30th?
Yes.
And you told Trooper Proctor,
Don't
quote,
let her,
"In turn
sh-
to
if she, if,
and
hold
state-
on. I'll see you inside.
Sidebar.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
In fact, what you told Trooper Proctor was, quote, Karen then turned to her friend and stated, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. End quote. Correct?
Okay.
Is that yes?
Yes, if you're saying that's in quotation marks in the in that, then yes.
That's what's in the report.
Okay.
And I'm not, you don't have to agree with me. I'm asking yes or no questions, not okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So in fact, what you told Trooper Proctor was that Karen Reed looked at the female to your left and said 4 times, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, correct?
Yes.
And have you since learned that the name or identity of the female that was standing to your left?
No.
You're aware that the female that was standing to your left reported the exact same statement?
No.
Are you aware that the female standing to your left reported that exact same statement as, could I have hit him? Did I hit him? Did I hit him?
No, I'm not aware of that.
You then went back to the ambulance after you heard that statement that you believed you heard my client state.
Yes.
You opened the ambulance door, correct?
Yes.
That was the back door,
The side door.
the side door. And there were 2 officers, I'm sorry, 2 firefighter paramedics in that ambulance at the time, correct?
I believe there were more than 2 at that time.
2 of them included firefighter Nuttall and firefighter Flamani.
Yes.
And at that point, you told them what you believed you had just heard.
So I went into the back of the ambulance. I said, this is his name. This is his date of birth. She says he doesn't have any medical history or allergies, doesn't take daily medications. And then I said, she's saying I hit him. And firefighter Nuttall motioned to his face and said something.
Objection, Your Honor.
Ask another question.
So the answer to my question is, yes, you told in front of Flamati and Nuttall the phrase, I hit him.
Yes.
You didn't write that in any report?
I don't write a report in this scenario of my job.
Let her finish the answer, please.
So there are 2 people that will write reports in my department on a call, one being the lead paramedic and the other being the officer who's on scene. So those are the people that write reports, and I was neither of those, so I did not write that in a report.
Okay.
That's correct.
So let me ask the question again. You didn't write it in any report?
No.
You didn't write it in any notes?
No.
You didn't document that statement in any way whatsoever, correct?
Other than my interview with Proctor and my subsequent testimony.
You didn't document that statement in any way yourself, did you?
No.
Since January 30th, in that conversation that we just talked about with Trooper Proctor, your statement has evolved. Is that right?
I don't know how to answer that.
You testified yesterday to something quite different
Not quite different.
than what you testified, I'm sorry, than what you stated to Trooper Proctor.
Respectfully, I think my testimony has been pretty consistent.
You testified to something yesterday quite different in context than what you told Trooper Proctor. Isn't that right?
I don't know that that's right.
Well, Well, you told Trooper Proctor, Karen Reed looked at a female standing to your left, said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Right?
Yes.
Yesterday, you told these jurors that Karen Reed said, I hit him, and an officer said, you what? And she repeated, I hit him, and the officer immediately turned and went to find another sergeant. Is that right or no? Yes or no?
No, there was more to that testimony.
That's not what you said yesterday?
I think I said more than that, than what you just repeated.
Is what I said consistent with what you said yesterday? There's a lot of things that you said, more of. I'm asking, is that the sum and substance of what you told these jurors yesterday?
Yes.
So you would agree that from that time till yesterday, your story has evolved. It's changed.
Would I agree with that?
No?
I don't know that I agree with that.
You think the story that you told Trooper Proctor is exactly the same
I
story?
understand what you're saying. So I understand what you're saying.
So has your story evolved?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Ms. McLaughlin, who's Caitlin Albert?
I went to high school with somebody named Caitlin Albert.
Somebody named Caitlin Albert.
I went to high school with somebody named Caitlin Albert.
So do you know Caitlin Albert?
I do.
You're friends with Caitlin Albert?
I would say more acquaintances, not close friends.
How do you describe an acquaintance?
I would say that we have mutual friends, so we might see each other occasionally because of mutual friends, but we don't have a one-on-one friendship or hang out regularly.
Who's her dad?
I don't know.
Objections. Do you know who her family is?
Objection.
Sustained.
May we approach her?
Yes.
I personally don't think that was effective, Kate. You know, I just trying to force her to say her story was questionable, that it evolved when it was very consistent, I thought.
Right.
I mean, you know.
And she's not having it. And I appreciate that. And then he immediately goes into who's Caitlin Albert. And I mean,
Yeah.
I think this is something we're going to see a lot when they try to push this conspiracy. These are people that loosely know each other at best.
Yep.
Flailing right now. Jackson is not doing well right now. He cannot handle this little lady.
I mean, she did at the end say yes, but I don't think the jury, I think the jury understood that she was bullied into that conclusion when it's his conclusion, not hers, that she doesn't really agree with that, you know? And there was so little change in her story. And I don't think it's actually 100% true that memories completely just get weaker over time, because sometimes as you're building that narrative of what happened in your mind, you might remember other details that trigger different things that can pull it together. So, well, to some degree, memories weaken, but I don't think it's that simple. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, she's been consistent, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean.
He looks like an asshole right now.
I mean, I hope she's not underplaying to the extent that she knows the Alberts, though, because that will definitely.
I know that she's not.
Okay.
I know that she's not.
I guess they're going to show some kind of picture of her drinking with Caitlin or something like that, or
They were
Caitlin drinking.
they were at a party together, which is again is consistent with what she's saying. They have mutual friends. I mean, it's silly. I think back to when I was in high school, which obviously was a lot more distant than when this girl was in high school. But I mean, how many times do you end up at a party or something, even through college, at a party, and there's people that you know of, but you don't know that well, right?
It's Canton. It's a small town. What's the population? About 20,000 or something. So, I mean, are they going to go?
Something has happened here.
I wonder if they decided to begin the trip. Are they?
No, I don't think so, because I don't think the cross was over. They're taking the jury out, I think.
Yeah.
I think they're taking, because like he's badgering the witness to try to get a different answer. Look at Karen does not look happy.
Would they take the jury out because this court is so small that they're afraid that jurors
So-
can hear the sidebar?
If the judge needs to address the parties in court, sometimes they'll take the jury out to do that and then bring them back in when they're done.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what's happening here. It looks like that's what's happening here.
All right. Ms. McLaughlin, I'm going to let you step out for a few minutes, show them what you have, and let a court officer know when you're ready for me to come back out.
All rise for the court, please.
Back to the fan.
Back to the fan.
I have no idea how long this break is.
No,
so we don't.
Not at all, but I would assume pretty quick. It looks like they're showing the court officer an exhibit that they want to show.
I know something maybe you can talk about because you've talked about him a lot more. So, I've only communicated a little bit with Paul, and everybody that's talked to me says he's just such a really good guy, and he's obviously heartbroken about all this happening. But he came across on the stand as also really intelligent and articulate.
Right.
And his Karen really hit it out of the park. You could tell she cared about Karen, and she's super believable and credible. So, but you've actually talked to these people in person. So, what can you tell us about them?
The O'Keefe family in general.
Yeah, and just Paul and Erin, since they've been witnesses.
Well, I think they're intelligent people. I think that unfortunately the breadth of it didn't really get pulled out in their testimony, and that's not on them. That's more on Lally. But you have to understand with the family who has been absolutely battered through this whole process, and really anyone on the scene that day as well. At first, the first thought was not that Karen had anything to do with this. They liked Karen. They were social with Karen. They thought Karen was a good influence on John. Erin and Karen were pretty close friends. Erin was a confidant for Karen. And that's another thing that I think wasn't really drawn out in her testimony. I'm not sure how much of it would be admissible anyway, but the relationship was fraught with problems, and the family was aware of that. And I think they're just good, normal people that come from a good, normal, working class background. Certainly don't deserve everything that they've gotten out of this. It's terrible. But I think there's just this genuine misconception. And of course, I can see how it plays out. Karen feels like.
Is that okay?
Yeah. I've got two coffin dappers, so I let them both in.
Hi, Kevin. Hi, Kate. How are you guys doing this morning?
Good.
Doing good.
I'm sorry. I think it ended up interrupting you, Kate. Did you want to finish your thought? I had one thought for sure about that testimony.
I'll go ahead. Yeah.
So this was a perfect example of what I was talking about this morning on the live, and how I do not understand how the prosecution is not filing an objection. It's asked and answered. I think Jackson asked her at least 4 to 5 times the exact same question in terms of whether she embellished or changed. I think the word he ended up using was changed her testimony from yesterday. He just kept hammering and hammering until finally, in my opinion, she just, whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
And that should not ever be allowed.
Yeah, like I said, he was allowed to bully her into it, and she finally just relented, said, "Oh yes." That's a great point.
Yeah, I think
And I want to say the reason he does that is because in his closing statement, what he's going to do, he's going to circle back, and he's only going to take that. He's going to say, and you'll remember when Paramedic McLaughlin said she changed her story on the stand. That's what he's going to be able to say now.
Well, I don't think the jury's going to forget it, though. I think the jury sees. Now, this is why it's important, though, for him to introduce. We're going to see a photo of her drinking at a party with Caitlin or something like that. None of this is really, I don't think, unusual, but they're trying to go with this idea that this is a frame, so that they all knew the Alberts and they were all trying to protect the Alberts. And so will that be enough to influence the jury? At this point in the testimony, I would think the jury's not happy with Alan Jackson, but maybe that'll turn if they're able to convince them that Caitlin was a close friend with Katie.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to, because you all are there kind of in the midst of everything. I know, Kevin, you've been able to talk with people that I'm just wondering, is anybody neutral anymore? And what are the neutral people thinking about all of this?
There are absolutely people that I spoke to that still have questions that are not certain. Even with the Free Karen Reed mob that I talked to a lot in the last couple of days, the people that are really asking, I talked to one woman last night who was there. She was the only one not in the pink shirt, but she knew some of those people. But she said her interest is she used to work for a lawyer and she loves law. She was there because it was court TV and that kind of stuff, and she's fully on the fence. But even some of the other people wearing the pink shirts do have questions, and they're just overpowered by so many odd things in the case. That's what really makes them think there's an injustice going on.
But Kevin, do they think that these EMS workers, all four, are just lying?
Yes.
Wow.
What? Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's stunning, but they believe it's just kind of a small world where like for instance, all right, I'll give you an example. One of the women talking yesterday was saying remember how yesterday when Katie said she turned to a cop next to her, and when Karen said I hit him, she turned to a cop and said, "Are you getting this?" And then that cop said, got the attention of Officer Goody, and that's what she testified. So what this person I was talking to yesterday, what impacted her was she said there's no way that Katie would not know which cop she was talking to, because it's a small town and all the firefighters and all the cops know each other. That was what she said.
She's a young woman. Like, what? I don't know about all that.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. Oh my Lord. I don't know about all that. That's the kind of leaps that you're making. I think that the more people that they bring out in relation to the statements, I do really highly suspect, just because of, I can't remember if it was Yannetti or Jackson, but just because of the kind of offhanded comment they had made regarding the statements at the hospital is these admissions are admissible, leads me to believe that the hospital staff are also going to cooperate this as well. And I mean, the more people that you get that have the same story, I mean, every single one of them is lying. Everyone is lying, but Karen here. And I think that by the end of this, that's where we're going to get to here. Is that, I mean, what does the Commonwealth have? Like 87 witnesses. Every single one of these witnesses is lying, except for Karen Reed and her 5 witnesses. I don't know.
Well, I don't know if I popped off there. And everything they have at risk, too. They have long careers. They've devoted their lives to saving lives. They have nothing in their backgrounds that show any sign of, criminal behavior or, lying. There's no sort of frauds in their background. Why would they all of a sudden decide to just make up these lies? But, I don't know if the jury is going to be able to get to that.
Kate, I think you might know the answer to this. I don't. Maybe Jen does, but who is Jackson talking about when he was asking Katie how one of the women at the scene has reported in her report that Karen was asking it with a question mark?
No, he's conflating two things. He's talking about Jen. Actually, it could be either one of them. It could be Jen or Carrie. But I've read the statement of the facts, back and forth so many times, front to back. Yeah. It is statements that she was making in the car on the way to look for John. Could I have hit him? Did I hit him? Right? They're not saying that she said that at the scene. So he's taking that and he's trying to essentially trick Katie McLaughlin, and she wasn't having it.
That's exactly right.
So Kerry Roberts is really going to be another powerful testimony here. She's not really connected to the Alberts. So
and she's nothing like Karen and her cult have characterized. I know Carrie very well. I consider her a friend at this point, honestly. I love Carrie. Carrie is not stupid. She's not pliable. She's not easily influenced. She's the kind of person, experience, I know this. If you go out to dinner, she's probably ordering for you. Honestly, she takes charge of every situation. There have been times when I feel like I'm faltering on, some things in my life, and she's the one who's right there, like the backbone. So the idea that she's some sort of easily manipulated, pliable, stupid woman is just you'll see her on the stand for 5 minutes and immediately realize that that's not true. If you thought Katie McLaughlin was spicy, just wait for Carrie Roberts. That's all I can really say. I really, really like her a lot. I like them all, but I really, really like Carrie a lot.
And Carrie's, of course, a friend that goes back to the O'Keefes all the way, 25 years or
The
something like that.
homecoming. They went to homecoming together.
Yeah, and she's
Yeah.
still friendly enough with them that at that day, she's the one that went and picked up the O'Keefes to bring them to the hospital, right?
Right, because they didn't have 4-wheel drive in their car and they couldn't.
Yeah.
They couldn't yes.
So even though she lived at Canton at the time, she's a Braintree girl. And so the idea of putting her into this conspiracy that's going to blow it apart when she gets on the stand, I think.
Even Jen. I mean, Jen knew John for a decade, just about. Very close, still, obviously, still very close to the family. I think that it's just silly at some point, and I think people are not listening to the O'Keefe family enough. Not that they're really speaking out, but their actions, what little they have said, they're not listening. Right? If these people really murdered their son, their brother, they probably would not have anything to do with them. And like I can tell you, Peg O'Keefe, not a dumb woman either, not pliable, not easily manipulated, far from it. Right? They're characterizing these people with almost these very flat, two-dimensional tropes, right? And like the problem with that is at some point the jury's going to see them, and they're multifaceted, fully dimensional people that don't fit the tropes that Karen Reed wants to put them in. They just don't.
I will say though, Kate, when you look at the paramedic testimony, just like even what we're seeing right here with McLaughlin, after being pounded and pounded and pounded, each of them have sort of just caved and thrown up their arms. I don't know if you remember, but Flamati even said words to the effect of, okay, whatever you say, Jackson. And the judge said, you can't say that. And then he said, well, I guess, because they just beat him. And then finally, oh, I guess. And then she said, you can't guess either. So my point is that he beats him down until he gets just the one admission. And I hope you're right, Kevin. I hope the jury truly sees it for what it is, because the good thing is Jackson's not going to quit. He's going to keep doing this same manner of cross with all of these witnesses.
Kate, I want to go back to something else you were just saying too, about how Lally kind of underplayed or underutilized the testimony of Paul and Erin, because they were at the house that day, and you've probably heard a lot more about this from me, but my understanding from talking to Natalie was that when one of the points when Paul began to believe that something was going on with Karen was actually the way she failed to react to the nephew, particularly the nephew, when he got there, was so upset. And everybody was concerned about consoling him, and Karen was completely cold.
I think if Jennifer could just mute when she's not talking, I'm seeing that in the chat, and it is, there's just, I don't know if you're on the road or something, there's a lot of noise there. Sorry. So I do. And again, I'm not sure what's admissible, or if there's a rhyme or reason why this was underutilized, or if it just was a missed opportunity. That I'm not clear on, but I know that I've heard the story from multiple different people that were there at the house that day. And Karen's behavior was odd, which they touched upon, but I don't think they really expounded on. The fact that, although they did get out, that she calls the family and asks to come to John's house under the pretense of seeing the children, and then just doesn't see the children, odd that she goes upstairs, she's gone real quick. Sorry, we're back. But yeah, I think it was kind of underutilized.
All right, so Ms. told us about it, Sidebar.
First in order would be do you want me to describe them for the record, Your Honor?
No. So they're not to be put up on the screen.
These are 4 items. One of them.
So don't describe them. I need to see them. So let's bring them up, mark them for identification, Madam Clerk. Then you'll get them back. But I need these marked for identification, and I need to see them. Thank you. So we'll
Mark them first.
Mark them first. All right. Thank you. Mr. Clerk. Okay, so we have four pieces of paper marked for identification that appear, you got these off of social media sites, Mr. Jackson?
That's correct.
Okay, when did you get these?
I couldn't tell you the exact date, but we probably had them for between 6 months and a year.
All right. And Commonwealth, you've not seen these before?
No, Your Honor.
Right. So we'll talk about Rule 14 in a little bit, but we'll bring the witness in. You can ask her questions, Mr. Jackson, about her vacation that you mentioned, the drinking that you talked about, the relationship with Ms. Albert. I've forgotten the first name already. And Caitlin, and about the house. So you can ask her questions about that. And let's see, you can show her these exhibits or these marked for identification if you need to. You may have trouble actually getting those into evidence, but I'm going to let you find out. You can ask her to identify them, how long ago they were, things like that.
Thank you.
All right, could we bring in Ms. McLaughlin, please? Yes. And Commonwealth, you just saw these today. I'm sorry, I don't remember if I asked you that.
Yes, and yes.
And you were objecting that, you objected at Sidebar that these come in at all?
Correct.
Okay. Oh, here's the fourth one, I'm sorry. Mr. Jackson, here's the last one. All right, so Ms. McLaughlin, Mr. Jackson's going to be allowed to ask you questions outside the presence of the jury, and you're still under oath and you have to answer them truthfully, okay?
Okay.
McLaughlin, when just briefly as a predicate, when you stepped out, I just want to make sure we're very clear. Did you have a conversation with anybody from the Commonwealth between the time you walked out of court and just now?
Just about if I needed a drink of water or to use the restroom.
Okay, but nothing about the substance of your testimony.
No.
Ms. McLaughlin, I asked you before we broke if you know who Caitlin Albert is.
Yes.
You said that you went to high school with somebody by that name, correct?
Yes.
You in fact know that person as a friend, correct?
I know her.
She's more than an acquaintance.
I would say she's an acquaintance. She's not a close friend.
Is she in a group of friends of yours?
We have mutual friends.
How long have you known her?
Probably since high school.
When you say, and I don't want to ask your age, I wouldn't do that. How many years, how long of a span of years have you known her?
Since high school, so maybe 10.
And you know her family, generally?
I don't.
You don't know anything about her family?
I don't know her family.
Had you ever been to her house?
Not that I recall ever being there.
Not that you recall, or you haven't? So there's two different things.
I don't recall ever being there.
Okay, so you might have been there, you just don't recall.
I don't recall ever being there.
Okay. If I were to ask you if you have ever been to her house, yes or no, you cannot answer that because you don't know. You cannot recall, correct?
I would say, I would lean towards no. I have no recollection of ever being at her house.
Are you friends with her on social media?
Yes.
May I approach you on it?
Yes.
I'm just going to leave all four of these up here. I know what they look like. Can you do me a favor and take a look at the first document? What does that document appear to be?
It says Caitlin's friends.
What does it look like? That's a printout of.
I'm sorry.
What does that look like? It's a printout of. Does that look like it's from Facebook or one of the social media apps?
Yeah, I don't know exactly. Some social media.
Okay. Under Caitlin's friends, do you see your handle, for lack of a better phrase?
I do.
Okay. Is that you?
Yes.
Okay. Can you look at the next photograph? Before we talk about that next photograph, which is, I should go in order for the record, Your Honor. The first one was H. Before we talk about I, which is the next photograph, how long have you been social media friends, quote, friends with Caitlin Albert?
I don't know.
More than 5 years?
Probably.
More than 8 years?
I don't know.
The second photograph, or the second document, appears to be a photograph. It's I, is that right?
Yes.
Do you see yourself in that photograph?
I do.
You see Caitlin in that photograph?
I do.
When was that photograph taken?
I have no idea.
Where was that photograph taken?
I don't know.
You have no idea how long ago that was?
I don't.
What was the event that was depicted, or that is depicted in that photograph?
I don't know.
Is that local, or was that on a trip somewhere?
I don't know. Probably local. If it's a beach, I don't remember. I've never been away like to a beach on vacation with all of these people, so probably local.
When we say local, let's talk about local. I don't mean, we may have different definitions. Where would that be? What beach? I'm not as familiar with the location.
I'm not sure.
Maybe on the Cape?
Possibly.
Okay. Do you recognize some of the other folks in that photograph?
I do.
Matter of fact, there's a lot of people in that photograph, right?
There's a lot of people in it.
Did you take a trip with all those people at some point in the past?
Take a trip.
To the beach.
Did I go to the beach at some point with these people? Yes.
Okay. When did you go to the beach with all those folks?
I don't know. I don't know when this picture is from.
Have you
It
gone?
seems old to me, but
Have you? Well, you can see yourself. I mean,
yeah.
What was that? Did you say it seems old to you?
Yeah, to me.
Okay.
This isn't like a recent to me.
how old do you think that photograph is?
I don't know. It could be around high school. I'm not sure.
And I know Mr. Jackson didn't want to ask you how old you are. When did you get out of high school?
2014. I
Okay.
graduated.
So could that have been around 2014?
It could be.
So you've known Caitlin for at least that long.
Yeah.
And when I say travel, I mean travel outside of Canton. Gone places with her, correct?
Yes.
You've posed for photographs with her,
Yes.
with other folks.
Yes.
It's like socializing and partying, correct?
Looks like socializing.
Maybe a small vacation.
I've never been on vacation with a big group of people like this.
Well, that doesn't look like what would you call that if that's not like a mini vacation?
A day at the beach?
A day at the beach. Okay. So maybe a day vacation.
Sure.
Okay. Let's look at the next photograph. Jay. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I do need to remind myself. That photograph looks a little older, correct?
They both look old to me. I don't know when they're from.
I'm going to ask you the same questions about that. These aren't trick questions. I don't want to waste your time. What's that from?
I don't remember specifically what or where this is.
Do you see yourself in that photograph?
I do.
Do you see Caitlin in that photograph?
I do.
You're all posing for the camera, correct?
Yes.
What's the location?
I don't know.
No idea.
I don't.
This is yet another socializing event with Caitlin that you can't recall.
I don't know where this is exactly.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on your words. Go ahead.
I don't know where this is exactly.
So you've had so many socializing events with Caitlin and other folks that you can't pinpoint this one as opposed to any of the others that you've had?
No, I'm saying I can't. These photos are old. I don't know. I don't remember where these were or the circumstances around them. That's what I'm saying.
You see how you're dressed in that photo?
Yes.
You see how you see the other friends that are there with you?
Yeah.
How many people would you estimate are in that photo?
Do you want me to count how many people?
Give me it. I don't have the photo in front of me, so just give me it. Is it more than 5?
12.
12 people.
Ish.
Okay. Do you recognize those dozen people?
I do.
Did you go on a day trip with those dozen people?
Yeah, possibly.
When?
I don't know.
Where?
I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't remember.
How many times have you gone on day trips with those dozen people?
I don't know.
How about turning back to photograph I? How many times have you gone on day trips and socialized with those number of people? It looks like probably double that, 20 or 25 people.
I don't know.
That's a big group of friends of yours that includes Caitlin Albert, right?
A big group of mutual friends.
So it's not just that she's a mutual friend, she's a friend. Isn't that right?
As I said before, I would consider myself more of an acquaintance. We have mutual friends. I wouldn't consider her a close friend, but yeah, I mean that would be my answer.
You basically grew up with her, went to high school with her.
I didn't grow up with her. I went to high school with her.
When I say grow up with her, I mean you grew up in the same town as her, right?
Grew up in the same town.
Went to the same high school as she did.
Yes.
Socialized with the same friends as she did.
Yes.
Went on day trips with her.
Yes.
And apparently have all the same friend group. Right?
I don't know that we have all the same friend group. These are people that we're both friends with.
But you don't consider her anything more than just an acquaintance.
I think I described it to you.
The answer to my question is you don't consider her to be anything more than an acquaintance.
I wouldn't consider her to be a close friend.
Now let's take a look at the last photograph. Describe what's in that photograph.
It's a picture of me. Caitlin is in it, and there's seems to be other people in it as well.
May I approach?
Yes.
Both of you can take it. Sorry, I just want to drop it on you. That's a close-up photograph of who?
Caitlin, and I'm also in it.
And you're doing what in the photograph as it relates to Caitlin?
It seems like I'm kind of kneeling down next to her.
Touching her?
Can I see that for just a minute, please? Thank you. I'm sorry, can you show me you? Okay, thank you.
So just for the record, may I approach one more time, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Take a look at that one more time. You're sort of just behind Caitlin in that photograph?
Yes.
Caitlin's the one drinking the beer?
Yes.
You got your right arm around her?
Yes.
You both appear to be wearing swimwear?
Yes.
Bathing suits?
Yes.
And you're giving some sort of sign with your left hand?
No, I'm not.
Is that somebody else's hand that I saw? Maybe that's Caitlin's.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't have the photograph in front of me. I don't have it committed to memory. Looks like that's a photograph that you and Caitlin posed for together, correct?
It seems like it's a close-up of a bigger, like a picture. It seems to be zoomed in on a group of people.
Which was posted on social media.
Okay.
Is that right?
Are you telling me that?
I'm asking you that. Have you ever seen that posted on social media?
I don't recall seeing this picture, but if it was on social media, then okay.
How long ago was that picture taken?
I don't know.
Who took the picture?
I don't know.
Where were you when the photograph was taken?
Probably at a beach with, if we're wearing bathing suits.
Probably at a beach or at a beach?
Well, I can't see a beach in the picture. We're in bathing suits. It could be at a beach.
Right. Do you recognize the bathing suit that you're wearing in the photograph?
No,
You literally don't even recognize your own outfit?
no,
So that doesn't help define where you were and when that photograph was taken?
no, sir.
Do any of these photographs remind you that you've been to Caitlin's house at some point in your friendship with her?
No,
Has Caitlin ever been to your house?
not to my recollection.
When was the last time you talked to Caitlin?
I don't remember exactly. It's probably been a few years.
When was the last time you went to an event, socializing event with Caitlin?
Again, I don't remember exactly.
Did you talk to Caitlin at any point at or around, on or around January 29th, 2022?
No,
When was the last time you had talked to Caitlin before January 29th, 2022?
I don't know.
Would it have been a day before, or a week before, a month before?
No, I don't talk to her. Like I said, we're not like close friends, so it's like pretty infrequent that we would interact. So I don't know when the last time before that.
What about texting or Snapchatting or communicating in that way?
I don't remember.
Would it have been a week before the 29th?
I don't think so.
You don't think so, or you know so?
I don't think so.
What about after the 29th, after you responded to 34 Fairview? You ever have any communication with her?
Not that I can recall.
So is that something that you think you might remember if you responded to a house of her father where there's a police officer dead or dying on the yard, on the lawn, 30 feet from the front door? You might have had a conversation with Caitlin?
I've never had a conversation with Caitlin about that call or this case.
Did you ever contact any of your other friends about the fact that you responded to Caitlin's parents' house?
No,
Were you ever asked about this relationship that you had with Caitlin Albert, this friendship that you had with Caitlin Albert at or near the time of the 29th of January?
no,
Did you ever disclose to anybody that you had a relationship with Caitlin Albert at or around the time of this event?
no.
When you went to 34 Fairview, you knew that that was the Albert family home, correct?
No.
When did you learn that it was the Albert? You now know that.
I know that now.
When did you find out?
I don't know. I don't recall. It was some point after. It was, but I don't know when.
Would it have been the next day?
No.
You and firefighter Flamati and firefighter Nuttall were all discussing this case pretty intently after this event, correct?
No.
It's not that often in the little town of Canton that a police officer is found dead or dying on another police officer's lawn. Wouldn't you agree with that?
We responded to a medical call. So the conversation after the fact was at the hospital, debriefing the call, going over what happened, what we use for equipment, what we need, and just like that was the extent of the conversation.
Would you agree that this case, given its notoriety, is discussed at the fire station almost daily?
I don't know when I'm not there, but it does get brought up.
And obviously the fact that the house belongs to, or belonged at the time, to the Albert family is part of that discussion.
I don't know. Like I said, it gets brought up, but it's I just avoid it. I don't engage in the conversations.
It was certainly enough of a subject matter that you learned, according to you, after the 29th. That house belongs to Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, parents of your friend Caitlin Albert, right?
Well, at that point, it was on the news consistently, so I don't know where that like information was introduced, but
it was pretty early on after the 29th.
I don't recall when it was known that that was the case.
I mean, you didn't learn that that was the Albert family home last week.
No,
You've known it for going on 2.5 years.
I don't know exactly when I learned that that was the house.
I realize you don't know exactly, Mr. McLaughlin. I'm not asking you the day you learned. I'm asking you, you've known this basically through the lifespan of this case.
At some point after I learned it.
Right. I'm just trying to figure out about how long after, a week after, a month after.
I'm not sure.
But it was more toward January 29th than it was yesterday, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
One other, just a couple of brief questions. Do you know any of Caitlin's siblings?
No,
You don't know Brian Albert Jr.?
no,
Do you know of any of her extended family that might be a little closer in age to you, like Colin Albert?
no,
Have you ever met any of them?
not that I recall.
Not that you recall, or no?
I don't remember meeting any of them.
Your Honor, that's all I have right now.
All right, Mr. Lally, any questions?
Sure. Just a few, Your Honor. So, Ms. McLaughlin, you're not friends with Caitlin Albert, correct?
I'm sorry.
You're not friends with Caitlin Albert, is that correct?
I would say she's an acquaintance, not a close friend.
You were shown some photographs of you in a fairly large group with Caitlin Albert, correct?
Yes.
You don't know when those were, correct?
I don't know exactly.
You don't know where you were when those were taken, correct?
No, not exactly. They seem old.
And just to back up, you knew her in high school, but you weren't friends in high school, correct?
I would categorize our relationship as always being just acquaintances. I knew her. We had some mutual friends, but we were never close friends. We don't have a one-on-one relationship.
And as far as high school versus post-high school, would you see her more so during high school, the high school years, or after you graduated?
Well, probably more in high school just because you're there every day. But then afterwards, yeah, only here and there. Like I said, like mutual friends. So maybe events for mutual friends, I might run into her.
And to be clear, and I think you made reference to it, but that last photograph that's marked as K, that seems to be a cropped or sort of zoomed in of a larger photo. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
Now, as far as each of those photos you were shown, you're present in a photo with Caitlin Albert in a much larger group, correct?
Yes.
Have you ever hung out or socialized with Caitlin Albert outside of the setting of a large group?
No.
You've never been to her house before that date of January 29th that you know of, correct?
Correct.
She's never been to your house that you know of, correct?
Correct.
Now, as far as that first one, that's as far as social media is concerned, as far as a friends list, and without sort of doing it, I'm sort of putting that in air quotes. How many friends would you say you have on social media in total?
I don't know. Maybe over 500. I don't know.
And of those 500 people, how many of those 500 people would you consider actual friends?
Much less than that. Less than 10.
All right, why don't we wrap this up, Mr. Lally?
Just when it comes to that day that you responded, you're working with the fire department, you responded to a call on January 29th to a home, or as you say, to somewhere on the side of the road. Did you have any idea whose house that was adjacent to where the treatment was concerned with regard to your patient?
No.
I know.
Okay. All right. So there was an objection that this was in violation of Rule 14 to admit these exhibits, Mr. Lally. That's what you said, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I agree. So the exhibits don't come in, but based on this voir dire and the answers, I'm going to give you some leeway on exactly what you did. Okay. The relationship, the socialization and the extent of it, friends on social media, those areas. You didn't quite get everything that you mentioned at Sidebar you thought you'd get. So that's not coming in.
So
If you
stay within the parameters.
So why don't you come over here then, just because?
I have the feeling this will be a quick sidebar, and then actually they're going to dismiss the jury and take them out on the road now. But so we're just hanging in there until they officially do that and go to the ceiling fan or cut the video out. Kate's back too. Hi,
Yeah,
Kate.
no, the jury. It would appear that the jury was out for all that. That was just a voir dire. So they're gonna,
okay.
yeah,
I
we're
didn't know
gonna hear that
Wow.
line of questioning again. So essentially, what Lally said is, well, you can't introduce these photographs. It's a violation of Rule 14. It's not evidentiary. It's not relevant. The judge agreed.
Interesting.
So they can't
Okay.
enter the photos. So what she said now is when they bring the jury back in, they can ask questions regarding the relationship. So we're about to hear the same line of questioning, more or less, in front of the jury for a third time.
I hate reruns.
This is insane, though. I mean, there's no way that Alan Jackson does not understand how acquaintances work. I am shocked that they didn't try to find a class picture or a picture at prom at this one.
I'll tell you what, though, in my opinion, then Alan Jackson blew it here because now she's going to have a much better reaction. To be honest, she came across to me as disingenuous, trying to underplay her knowledge of who Caitlin was. Like when we first asked, and she's like, I know I went to there was a girl like that at my school. It made it seem like she didn't even know her. Like she saw her in the yearbook or
Well,
something.
I think that's an appropriate answer. I went to a school with a girl named Caitlin Albert, right?
You're
Like,
better
your
off
answer's
just getting
question.
out front and saying, yes, she's someone I
Mhm.
went to high school with. I know her a little bit socially, but I'm not close friends. Just don't be disingenuous.
Well, I mean, I
hope-
think she was trying to get there, but I think she did fine. And I think some of her hesitation was trying to remember, because we're talking about, like, I mean, if you were to present pictures to me from high school, and again, she's 10 years ago. I've been out of high school for a little bit longer, but not that much longer. She's 28 years old. I'm 36. I couldn't tell you when every single picture was taken. I could tell you who's in the photos, but not everybody who's in the photos is going to be a close friend of mine.
Yeah.
I think that she was very careful, answering some questions. When was the last time you texted her? I can't recall. More likely than not, she didn't text her, but on the odd chance that, look, here's a text from 2016, right? Oh, well, you got me there. This is a clown show line of questioning. They are trying desperately to establish a connection, to give Katie McLaughlin some motivation to lie about Karen's statements, and they're just not there. They're just not
it was in one ironic way to me that it was effective. or ineffective actually, was that I do think, I know we disagree on this, but I think she was a little bit disingenuous there, and her answers were not so strong, and she seemed to be kind of try to avoid the admitting the connection to Caitlin a little bit. But what it did though is it also contrasted very much with her other testimony about the crime scene, in which she was very strong and in her answers and very confident in her answers. So I'd almost like a jury could look at this and say, all right, so she's trying to downplay this, but that really highlights how truthful she was before. I don't know. I know that's kind of weird, but
Yeah, again, I just I didn't see her being disingenuous there. I think, like, I mean, how do you explain? And I think she knows where the questioning is going to, so she was kind of being careful about how she answered it. But again, just from anything that I've heard, and just like I've talked to a lot of people in Canton, I've talked to a lot of people involved, acquaintances at best, just because and that's the thing. I think another thing that, of course, the jury isn't going to see or hear because those pictures aren't inadmissible, but just for us. Alan Jackson was not able to produce one picture of Caitlin Albert and Katie McLaughlin, just the two of them, or even in a very small group. It's large groups. So,
right.
Oh, and now they're bringing back.
If you all think they're right outside the door, you're mistaken.
Please be seated. Jim, do you have any envelopes over there?
I do. Any more? Do you need any more? I'll work on it.
You know what? No, this is good. We're good.
All right.
Just use the chair for staying. Awesome. Thank you. Ms. McLaughlin, did you say you had a water? Is there a water waiting for you out there that you need? Or
I'm okay.
Okay, thank you.
Surprise to the jury. This court is in session. Please be seated.
So jurors, from time to time, there are things that I need to discuss with the lawyers, as you saw. We try and do it as quickly as we can. It's in an effort to make sure that what you see and hear in this case is appropriate for you to see and hear. So sometimes we spend a little time now that will save us a lot of time later. So we do appreciate your patience.
Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. McLaughlin, thank you for your patience. When we last left off, I was asking you about your relationship with Caitlin Albert. You recall that?
Yes.
I want to ask you a few more questions about that. You and Caitlin Albert have known each other for how long?
Since high school.
Which is, give me a span of time.
So probably about 10 years.
You have traveled with Caitlin Albert and friends. When I say traveled, I don't mean to exotic locations. I mean day trips, etc.
Yes.
You have a group of mutual friends together, correct?
We have mutual friends, correct.
Those mutual friends have gone on day trips with you and Caitlin Albert involved?
Correct.
On more than one occasion, as a matter of fact?
Correct.
On many occasions, as a matter of fact?
I don't know.
More than 5?
I don't know.
More than 10?
I don't know.
You've seen photographs of you with Caitlin Albert on some of these day trips, correct?
Yes.
You've seen at least 3 of those photographs.
Yes.
You're friends with Caitlin Albert on social media?
Yes.
Other than the 3 photographs that you've seen, you just talked about, there have been other events that you've been at with Caitlin Albert that weren't necessarily photographed, or we don't have those photographs, correct?
Probably.
You know that Caitlin Albert is the same Caitlin Albert that's the daughter of Brian and Nicole Albert, as you sit here.
Yes. As I sit here today, yes.
And you know that Caitlin Albert also has siblings, Brian Albert Jr., correct?
As I sit here today, yes, I know that.
And you also know, as you sit here today, that 34 Fairview was, at the time of January 29th, 2022, the Albert home, correct?
I know that as of today.
You indicated, let me rephrase that. When you showed up at 34 Fairview that morning, did you recognize that address or recognize the home as being that of Caitlin Albert's?
No.
You have since learned that that was Caitlin Albert's home.
As I know that now.
Right. And you gave your original statement to Trooper Proctor the next day.
Yes.
And from that day to this day, or let's take yesterday, from that day to yesterday, you learned that 34 Fairview was the Canton Albert family home, correct?
You're asking if I know from...
Between those 2 dates.
Yes.
Between the time you spoke with
Yes.
Proctor in this report till yesterday when you testified, you now know that that's the Albert home.
Yes.
And you also indicated that between that report that you gave to Trooper Proctor, that statement that you gave to Trooper Proctor, and yesterday's testimony, your statement has evolved. You've already admitted that, correct?
I don't think I agreed with you on that. I
changed? It's different?
I've always testified to I feel as though my testimony has been consistent.
I appreciate how you might feel. I'm just interested in the actual facts. You didn't tell Trooper Proctor anything about this officer questioning my client. Correct?
Objection.
So I'm going to see counsel at Sidebar because I think this morphed into a different.
You agree, Mr. McLaughlin, that the statement that you gave to Trooper Proctor is not the same as the statement that you gave to these jurors yesterday? Right?
Yes.
Yeah, just one more.
Yes.
A couple of other questions. When you did make this statement to Trooper Proctor, your visit to Canton PD was coordinated by another officer to put you and Trooper Proctor together for the interview, correct?
I don't recall that.
Do you recall being contacted by a completely different officer to say, hey, Trooper Proctor wants to talk to you, come on into Canton PD, let's have an interview?
I don't remember exactly how the interview was set up.
So that was my next question. You may have just told me this. Do you have any recollection who set that interview up?
I don't.
His name Kevin Albert sound familiar?
No.
You know Kevin Albert?
No.
You know him to be a police officer at Canton PD?
No.
You know him to be the brother of Brian Albert?
Objection.
No.
The objection sustained.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay. Lally, any redirect?
Yes.
So Firefighter McLaughlin, you went to high school with Caitlin Allen, correct?
Yes.
And could you describe the nature of your relationship, if any, with Caitlin?
I would describe it as we're not close friends. I would say we're more acquaintances. We have mutual friends. I don't have a one-on-one relationship with her.
And you were asked some questions about social media, correct?
Yes.
And if you could, or if you could guesstimate about how many friends, and I'm sort of throwing air quotes in there, how many friends on social media would you have?
I don't know, probably 500.
And of those probably 500 friends on social media, how many of those are actual friends that you talk to, interact with beyond social media?
Much less than that.
Now, prior to, let me ask you this, as far as, would you say that you saw Caitlin Albert more so when you were in high school or more so since you have graduated from high school?
I would say probably more in high school because we were there every day. So.
And about what year or so was it that you graduated from high school?
2014.
And as far as any sort of photographs that were referenced to you, have you seen those photographs?
Here.
Yes.
Here today, I saw them.
Do you have any idea where or when those photographs were taken?
I don't remember.
And of those photographs, it's not just you and Caitlin Albert in a photograph. Is that correct?
Correct.
So a larger group of people. Is that correct?
Correct.
When you were asked about sort of these day trips, they were sort of trips specifically on a day to a beach, it looks like, correct?
Correct.
And to a beach with a larger group of people, is that correct?
Correct.
And with reference to Caitlin Albert specifically, have you ever socialized with her in any setting beyond a setting that contained a large group of people?
No.
Now, with respect to, you went to, when you say high school, you graduated from Canton High School, correct?
Correct.
And you grew up in Canton, is that correct?
Yes.
And did you know Caitlin Albert before you attended Canton High School?
No, that's probably when we first really interacted with high school.
And essentially, you live within the town I'm sorry, you work within the town that you grew up, correct?
Correct.
And is that abnormal from a civil service perspective?
No, from a civil service perspective, you're given more points for residency. So it's actually, I would say, preferred, or you're placed higher on the list if you have residency in that town.
So it's actually preferred and more common than uncommon as far as growing up in a town and then working in that same town in a civil service position like a firefighter.
Yes.
Now, during the course of the time that you've been on the Canton Fire Department, have you received calls to residencies or other places or even patients that you either knew or were familiar with?
Yes.
Would that be a reason for you to not want to call?
No.
And you have an obligation, wouldn't you say, to respond to a call when a call is made and you're on duty in that station, correct?
Yes.
The objection sustained. Ask the question differently.
As far as when you're on duty as a firefighter at a particular station house and you get a call, what, if any, choice do you have to respond to any particular call?
I don't have a choice. I just have to respond to the call.
And then prior to that date of January 29th, had you ever been over through socialization or otherwise Caitlin Albert's house?
Not that I ever remember.
Had she ever been over your house?
No.
And again, had you ever socialized with her outside of a large group of people?
No.
When you responded on that morning, just after 6 a.m., the house of 34 Fairview Road, did you know who lived there?
No.
During the time since January 29th of 2022, have you ever spoken to Caitlin Albert about what happened that morning in front of 34 Fairview Road?
No.
Now, you were asked some questions on cross-examination about knowing sort of Caitlin Albert's parents' names or siblings' names or things of that, correct?
Right.
And prior to January 29th, you didn't know any of those names, is that correct?
No.
You learned of them subsequently, is that correct?
Yes.
May we approach just briefly?
Okay.
Ms. McLaughlin, you learned of those other people's names within the Albert family subsequent to your response to this call on January 29th. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you learn of those through sort of various news or media reports in relation to this case, not something that you had any conversations with anybody about, correct?
Correct.
I have nothing further.
All right. Your Honor, if I may, I have a brief
Okay.
follow-up.
Okay.
You indicated, Ms. McLaughlin, that Mr. Lally just asked you about these 500 friends on social media. A couple of quick questions about that. Of those 500 friends on social media, how many of those have you taken day trips with?
I don't know.
How many of those have you gone to the beach with?
I don't know.
How many of those have you posed for photographs with?
I don't know.
How many of those have you posed for photographs in swimwear with?
I don't know.
How many of those have you been photographed with your arm around while that other friend is drinking a beer?
Sustained. Sustained.
Ms. McLaughlin, all of those things that I just mentioned, you have done with Miss Caitlin Albert.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
That's all I have.
Okay. All right, Firefighter McLaughlin, you are all set. All right, jurors, we are getting ready to go for our view. So we're about to visit a place which you'll be hearing about some more. You've heard about, you've seen photographs of, and in court terminology, we call this a view. The purpose of the view is to help you better to understand the evidence, which you'll hear during the trial, and to help you appreciate the location and its surroundings. The view that you will take is a part of this case. The observations that you make while on the view may be used and considered in your deliberations in reaching a verdict. The place that we're going to go, you've seen photos of, you've heard it, it's 34 Fairview Road. The lawyers and I will accompany you on the bus. The attorneys may point out to you the arrangement of the scene and items that they want you to pay special note of. But otherwise, they cannot discuss anything in this case in regard to this case, and they can't talk to you. All right, they'll be able to do an opening here, and they'll be able to point these things out. While you're on the view, it's very important that you can't take notes, and you certainly can't use your phones and take photographs. All right, it's really just for you to see. You cannot conduct any independent investigation while we're there, or at any time during the trial, as you've been told. You're not to return to the scene or ask anyone else to do it for you until the case is over. So this is your opportunity to take a look when we go. What you are to do on the view may be best summarized in two very familiar words, which is stop and look. Okay. Your responsibility is to see the place, to observe it carefully, and to remember what you see. So during your trip to and from the place that we're going to view, you're not to discuss this case or anything about it among yourselves or with anyone, and you are not to permit anyone to talk with you about the case. You'll be under the supervision of our great court officers at all times, and you'll remain together until you return to court unless the court officers direct you otherwise. And just so that you know, because some of this came up during our jury selection process, spectators, if there are any, and all members of the press have been ordered to stay 100 yards away from you. All right, so you can go and you can look and take your time looking without worrying about any interference from anyone. All right, so with that, Mr. Clerk, could you swear in, please, the court officer?
Court officers, raise your right hands, please. Do you solemnly swear you will take this jury upon the premises in question and there suffer them to view the same and any property, place, or thing bearing upon the issues on the trial, as they shall seem necessary? That you will not permit the parties to enter in a debate in front of the jury or a person to speak to them unless it be Adam Lally for the Commonwealth and Alan Jackson for the defendant. They to point out such places or things as they deem expedient for the determination of the issue, and that you will keep the jury together until they shall return into court, except the court shall otherwise order, so help you God. Thank you.
All right, so Mr. Lally, do you want to do a short view opening?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
So ladies and gentlemen, as her owner just described, we're about to go to a place. When we arrive there, and at any point in time when we're there, this is not a point where we can have any sort of conversation or back and forth. So All I'm going to be asking you to do is just take note of certain locations and certain items as you see them. And again, as with anything in this case, this is as you find them, as you observe them, okay? So first, I'm going to ask you to sort of, when we arrive in a general area, as far as taking note of sort of street names when you're coming into and when you're exiting from this particular area. When we arrive at a specific location, I'm going to ask you to take note of certain things about the roadway. Okay, certainly any abutments to the roadway, any residences that you observe, the distances between the roadway and any landmarks or any items that you observe on that property, specifically a driveway, specifically a front door, any other sort of items of interest within the front lawn area of that home. I'm also going to ask you to take note of the roadway itself and sort of the width of that roadway, whether or not you find any sort of lanes separating within that roadway, and then the individual width of some of those lanes as well. Lastly, there is also going to be a vehicle there as well. And I'm going to ask you to take note of certain things with respect to that vehicle, okay? With respect to the size of the vehicle, with respect to the height of the vehicle, with respect to anything that you observe specifically from the front, the side, the back, all of the exterior of that vehicle, and then also some of the interior of that vehicle. And specifically, I'm going to ask you to take note of sort of the center console in the front driver's compartment of that vehicle, and anything that you observe in that location as well. And that is all I'm asking you to do on this case, and I thank you again for your time and attention.
All right, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's the first time we've been able to speak to you directly, so I want to take the opportunity to introduce myself and thank you for your service and thank you for your time and commitment to this. I'm going to echo a lot of what Mr. Lally just said. There's nothing magical about this other than it gives you perspective. It's an opportunity to introduce you in three-dimensional form to stuff that you've been seeing in two-dimensional form. Photographs, some of the testimony, diagrams that you might see.
So I'm sorry, we're really pointed on what you can say.
What we're going to ask you to do is take special note of the relationships of physical items out at the scene. Much as Mr. Lally just indicated, there are going to be physical things out at the scene. What about a flagpole, a fire hydrant, a house? We're going to ask you to take special note of where those are in relation to other things physically at the scene. That will hopefully, with the court's instruction, give you some assistance in putting together the testimony that you think is relevant, and the documents that you think are relevant. Again, to echo what Mr. Lally said, we're going to ask you to look at the roadway, the vehicle, the house, the physical items at the home, and the relationship between and among all of those things to each other. Hopefully, that will give you a very good understanding of what we're dealing with, especially with the exhibits. Thank you.
All right, so folks, we'll be all set. We'll see you at the bus in a little bit.
Just make sure your notebooks are closed.
You are muted. Goodbye.
Quiet, please.
Okay, guys, I don't know if Kate or Jen will be back with us shortly. I'm sure they will at some point. But I was really interested for Lally. He pointed out the center console as being something that he wanted the jury to look at. And I'm not really sure why. The center console of the SUV, I don't know if it would actually be Karen's SUV or just a similar model that they've brought to the scene. Maybe Kate or Jen will know about that. I think maybe it might actually be Karen's SUV, but I'm not sure. But what is the significance of the center console? I don't know. Why is that a key piece of information? I can't. I guess that would have to do with maybe that goes to the second degree charge where they're. Oh.
Your Honor, I'm so sorry for the false start. I wanted to make one final record on the court's ruling. I respect the court's ruling on the.
Go ahead, you can make your record.
Maybe it would be better if I did it over here. I wanted to interpose an objection to.
So I think it would be better if you did it over here.
It's illegal. It's just illegal.
I don't know what you're doing. Come over here and tell me what you're going to do, and then I'll be back and do it.
May I hear her?
Yes.
Okay, as it relates to the 4 exhibits that the court deemed were not admissible because of a violation of Rule 14, I wanted to elaborate just very briefly.
Go ahead.
Our objection. We believe that under Rule 14, we were not obligated to have to present these exhibits to the Commonwealth in discovery. Rule 14 does not require such disclosure when the exhibits are used for impeachment only. And that's exactly what those 4 exhibits were going to be used for and what we intended to use them for. Had this witness said, I know Caitlin Albert, we've been friends for 10 years, we went to high school together, we've been on day trips together, we've been to the beach together, and we've socialized together. I wouldn't have to show any photographs, but that's not what she said. What she said was, I went to high school with a person named Caitlin Albert, which is a bastardization of the truth. That's not the truth. And those 4 photographs are what got her in the voir dire process, what got her to admit that she in fact does know Caitlin Albert, and those are on a very, very different level than she first suggested. As the SJC is explained in the case of Commonwealth versus Aguiar, Aguiar, at 400 Mass 508, pin site at 513. It's a 1987 case that says the following, and then I'll finish my record. Quote, a defendant has a constitutional right to bring to a jury's attention any circumstance which may materially affect the testimony of an adverse witness, which might lead the jury to find that the witness is under an influence to prevaricate. It matters not that the evidence would reveal an otherwise inadmissible fact, such as the witness's commission of a crime. A judge may not restrict cross-examination of a material witness by foreclosing inquiry into a subject that could show bias or prejudice on the part of the witness, end quote. And that's exactly what we believe we were entitled to do with Katie McLaughlin as a witness for the Commonwealth. She has bias, or at least the jurors can consider a bias. She has prejudice, the jurors can consider a prejudice because of a pre-existing relationship with Caitlin Albert about which she was not truthful. So I wanted to make that record and ask the court to reconsider whether or not those 4 exhibits could be introduced. I don't need to make any big deal about it. I don't want to call her back to the stand, but I think the jurors, now having had the description of those photographs, should be able to see them in evidence. And I will submit.
All right, so that request is denied. The record's clear. So Ms. Reed is not going on this view. She just needs to make sure she's back here by the time we return. So Mr. Yannetti, you're nodding.
Yes,
You will
understood.
contact her and make sure
Understood.
she's back here.
Understood.
All rise for the court, please.
That actually reminded me of my cousin Vinny when the judge said something to the effect when Vinny made a really salient, well-argued point. He goes, that was very well done, concise, clear, whatever, but objection overruled. I don't think that the judge is going to give Jackson, if it's a judgment call, if it's just a baseball game and it's a close play, the judge is not going to give them any close ones. That's not because of bias. That's because she's been annoyed by their conduct for a while. So I'm really interested. I'm going to look in chat to see if you guys have any ideas. Maybe Kate will come back. What is the significance that Lally wants the jury to see about the center console? That's that part in the middle, like where you put your drinks and you store your charges and stuff like that, right? What would be the significance of that? I'm really curious about that. If anybody, I'm looking in chat to see if anybody knows, if anybody has any ideas. Percy says that's very perplexing. I'm not sure if she's responding to me or someone in chat. Will Scott. Chat's moving too quick. Sorry. I was reading Will Scott's answer. I know there's a setting I can go to slow down chat. I should go do that. Let's see what Will said on that. I lost the comment that Will had a reply on this, and I can't see it because it moved too fast. I can't read fast enough. Now I can't find it. Okay. So we'll get away from, I don't know. All right, so I'm trying to see. I got to go into that and do something that slows down chat because it's getting too hard to read. So we know that at least John brought a drink with him into the car. There was also, if I remember right, a report button to the braking system. I don't know what that would have to do with the console or I don't know. But the backup that's what is meant by the center console. Is that the thing on the front where you see like when you have the cameras and you see it go in reverse? That's what I thought at first. And then I Googled center console and all it comes up was that pictures of that thing in the middle where, where people have their coffee and stuff, put their coffee and stuff like that. So, I mean, because the other thing I think is called the dashboard. So I'm just looking through. All right, let me try Lex. I'm going to search Lexus center console and see what that comes up. So yeah, I got a picture here. Let me share this with you guys. This is the Lexus center console. Oh, Kate's back. Hey, Kate, what do you think the significance is of the center console?
The center console.
Yeah.
I honestly had to walk away because I got a call from a magazine. Sorry about that.
Okay.
So why don't you, if you could debrief me, then maybe I can.
So the Lally and Jackson got to kind of give the jury some instructions what to look for. They had to be very general. And Lally wanted them to pay so the vehicle is there. Karen's actual SUV has been there since 9 o'clock this morning. And it's at the scene and they're going to be allowed to examine it. And he wanted them to pay attention to the center console.
That's interesting.
Any theories on that?
That is perplexing, actually. So, do you remember the model of her Lexus SUV?
No.
Okay.
No. So I just pulled up an image of a Lexus center console, and this is probably a different model, but I'm not. I'm just seeing if it gives us any ideas. I can make it bigger for a moment. Let's see. No, that's as big as I can get it.
Okay.
So you got your cup holders there.
Right.
I don't know. Is that an emergency brake thing there? I'm not even sure what that little stick shift is. Would there be any? Because we know they want to pay attention to whether her alarms worked and stuff like that, right?
Right. That might not be necessarily something for the viewing, though. That is interesting. Center console.
Now, I'm just looking at, I guess the model was a 2021 Lexus 570.
570, okay.
Someone just messaged me, yeah.
Okay. So I'm looking at a 2021 Lexus 570 center console right now.
I actually have a picture right now of the SUV at the crime scene. Let me see if I can bring that up for people.
So, okay, I have maybe a little bit of, okay. Do you mind if I share my screen or when you take?
Yeah, whatever you got to do. I don't, yeah. Do I have to take off that picture? I'll take that off.
It's all right. No, I mean, it's fine. So I'm looking here at the center console. What I am noticing is that you can take It looks like traction control off. Maybe the brake assist. Do you see what I'm seeing?
No, I'm actually pulling up that picture, but I'm listening.
Sorry.
So, but go ahead. We're all listening. Do you want me to?
I shared it.
Okay. Oh, here we go.
Yeah. So if you look on the bottom there, it looks like you can turn certain safety features off.
Okay.
I'm assuming that's traction control. It looks like that might be brake assist. These knobs on the bottom, I'm not sure what they do.
Mm-hmm. So the idea will be that the state's going to show that these things were not turned off?
Or that if they were done so manually.
Yeah. But the
That's
fact
my
that
big guess right now.
So if they weren't turned off, then they were working, and maybe that should have, I don't know, what those safety, do they stop the car if she's about to hit an object? Do they just give her warnings?
I believe that brake assist will, if you're going at a low enough speed. I'm not sure what that cutoff is.
Right.
I know even I have a 2018 Toyota Corolla, right? Everyone's seen it by now. But so it's not the most technologically advanced car in the world, but it does have some safety features. And I know that I have like a radar assist, so I can set how many car lengths I want to stay away from other cars, right? And even on the highway, this works. So if I get too close within that, I usually keep it to 3 car lengths because I'm, a skittish driver a little bit. But if I get within that 3 car lengths, then my car will automatically apply the brake for me. I can turn that off, though.
This is Karen's SUV right here. It's been there since 9 o'clock this morning.
Mm.
So this is a picture from this morning. This is where the jury will be shortly. 100 yards is, I don't know, that's not very far. You can still get pictures of the jurors from there and stuff. I don't know. I mean,
I know.
the people that I've met over the last few days are all very nice, and they don't seem to go for those kind of tactics. But we know Turtle Boy and his followers do. So he'll be trying to get pictures of these jurors. I don't know. 100 yards just doesn't seem far enough for me. Hopefully there's no one there. Maybe they're not.
I'm sure that they probably will do what they can to, try to expose the juror. Let's be real. I mean, we know that Turtle Boy probably already has jurors' information anyway.
He probably already has some. And the thing is it's difficult to contain because it's like the OJ case, and people, they're not required to keep quiet about the fact that they're on the jury, and eventually they tell friends, and you got to tell your husband, you got to tell your boss, you got to make arrangements for daycare or whatever. There's all kinds of reasons, and as soon as someone knows, someone's going to tell someone else, and then it gets out there. It's happened to me too. So, but I don't reveal the information.
Right.
All right, so this should be interesting.
So they're doing the viewing now.
Yeah. Do you think they'll take them down the road that Karen and John drove?
Possibly.
Because I think it's important. Because I think eventually Lally will get to point out the exact spot where John punched in 34 Fairview into his ways. And then it takes them another 3. Now, they won't be able to point that out on the bus, so they'll have to point it out later. But still, the jurors will have a sense of where they had to go to get to Fairview, and then how Karen went past the road, turned around. And that's all the time that's during the period that Rich Green said John was walking up and down stairs. So I think it might be important to point that out.
Do you really think that they'll I don't know if they're going to lean into that whole Apple Health data thing. That would be insane.
Well, that's what I would have said a couple of weeks ago, except their entire playbook was exactly everything that they gave to Turtle Boy last April. They haven't really varied much from it, except they maybe haven't at this point hammered Colin so I don't know if they'll show pictures of Colin with broken knuckle, with bruised knuckles or anything like that. But everything else that was in that article has come out, right? I mean, they're going exactly according to what they planned a year ago. So it seems crazy to me that they'll do that because it's going to be so easily debunked. But I don't know. I guess they're banking on having a couple of jurors that just are already buying into it or looking for a reason to be skeptical, maybe. I don't think Jen is here, so, but I'm going to. Jen, are you actually here? Yeah, I think she's just logged in.
She's logged in.
Yeah. Any other thoughts today on?
No, I mean, so after they do the viewing, are they coming back, or is that it for the day?
No, I think that, well, it wasn't really clear, but it's a full day today. So, and actually,
Right.
no, they are, because the instructions to Karen were to be available. So, yeah, they're coming
Okay.
back.
All right, great.
I would assume that they're going to break for lunch though. So probably they won't be back until like 1, right?
Yeah, probably. So
Maybe even later.
I'm interested to see what the rest of the testimony looks like today. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you think Katie changed at all when she actually?
No, I honestly, I think that she did the best she could with that insane line of questioning. I don't understand why Alan. I mean, I'm sure Alan Jackson does understand acquaintances, and he's just trying to hammer that. But you're really trying to get blood from a stone there. They're not, friends. I mean, I'm trying to think.
But that's not the only issue. Part of the issue is, yes, are they friends enough? That might cause her to change her testimony or something, or what she reported. But the other thing is, it goes back to her whether or not she's being truthful. Which, if you question any part, if you're untruthful about anything, it opens everything else that she set up.
I mean, that's a double-edged sword, because you're talking about evolving stories. The Commonwealth has evidence of actual evidence of evolving stories on the part of Karen Reed. So that's a fine line to walk. I consider Katie looked credible to me, right?
I mean, when she said, I went to high school with someone named Caitlin Albert, that was disingenuous to me. I felt unprepared. I felt like Gladly should have been like, look, they have information. They know you went to high school with her. Just be up front and come out and say, yes, I went to high school with her. She should have just said that. I mean, I don't know. In my opinion. Okay.
I don't think she was denying that it was Caitlin Albert, though,
Yeah. No, at the end of the day, she was probably truthful about it, but I think she was trying to underplay it a little bit. Minimize it, I guess you'd say. Yeah.
Possibly.
Okay. Anything else you want to add? And we'll close it out here and come back.
Yeah, let's do that. I'll give you a call.
Okay. Thanks, Kate.
All right, no problem.
All right, guys, I'll just close it up here. Closing remarks. Just thanks for being here, everybody. And, let's just keep going over the evidence objectively. And this is what we're doing, trying to be civil with each other. The jury's now on their way out there. That's Karen's SUV at the scene right now. If you're thinking about going out there, you have to stay 100 yards away. I'm sure it's going to be well cordoned off, and be curious to see what happens. I'm not sure what time we'll be back, but I would think that they'll begin court sometime between 1 and 2. And I don't know who the next witness is, so it could be really interesting. I thought Katie McLaughlin was a really interesting witness. So appreciate having you guys here, and we'll see you in a little while.